We've been talking about having righteous desires and how the Lord can't wait to grant you the desires of your hearts. And you actually see that play out in this week's chapters. So in section 7, it's an answer to the desire of Joseph and Oliver. Both of them had been in this translation process, and they have questions about John the Beloved. They want to know, what happened? Is he really on the earth? And they have these questions, they debate it out amongst themselves and have differing opinions, and so they take it to the Lord and seek his guidance. And section 7 is an answer to that prayer. So remember, the Lord loves to grant your righteous desires. So when a prophet asks for more light and knowledge about John the Beloved, here it is. We don't exactly know the process of how Joseph received this revelation, but we do know what comes from it. And that is where you learn that John, the beloved disciple of Jesus Christ, is a translated being. This is one of those times where I think it's helpful to give your kids some guidance about the difference between being translated and being transfigured. Because you see both in Scripture, and the words are so similar that it's easy to get them mixed up. So here's a simple way for you to teach it. And all you need is a balloon and a skewer. So first, I would talk to your kids about John the Beloved, that he is a translated being, and what that means. If you go in the notes, I give you some background information about the difference between them. Transfigured essentially is a temporary change. In the past, I've described it like the difference of putting on glasses or holding up binoculars to your face, and that translation is a longer term change, like getting LASIK done on your eyes. Neither of them are fully permanent like resurrection is, but both of them involve a change. Transfiguration is more temporary, translation is more permanent, and resurrection is fully permanent. So we're going to show this with a balloon. Basically, you want to give each of your kids a balloon. It would help you to get a slightly larger party balloon. I mean, standard size is just fine, but don't get like a little water balloon, thin balloon. You want something that's got a little bit of thickness to it. If you've got punch balloons, those would work great, but anything about 9-inch size or bigger would be fine. And first, you're going to have your kids blow it up as big as they can and just pinch the tip. The air is going to stay in that balloon, but it's not going to stay permanently in that balloon. And this is what you're going to compare to transfiguration. When there is a temporary change in a person, they're bigger than they used to be. This happens with Moses. This is an easy one for your kids to remember because we talked about this in the Pearl of Great Price. When Moses encounters God, he has to be changed somehow. In fact, that's how he recognizes that Satan isn't someone he should worship, because he knows he didn't have to change at all in order to be in Satan's presence, but he remembers being changed somehow in God's. And that's what I think you want to help your kids understand about being transfigured. It's a temporary change that happens when you talk about the Mount of Transfiguration, or even what probably happened to Joseph in the garden or in the grove is that he had to change somehow. So that's the neck being pinched. Then let that air out and now blow up the balloon again and talk about translation. Translation means there's a knot in this balloon. So it stays intact a lot longer. It's a little safer to stay in that kind of shape. You're going to talk to your kids about some of the doctrines we know about translation. For these, I would go into the notes because I link you to gospel topics and guide to the scriptures, things like that, so you can teach your kids what we know so far. But that translated beings don't experience pain. They can't die. In fact, they're not resurrected yet. They're in this stage where they usually are either staying on the earth to help serve men, or they go between places so that they can be ministers, angelic ministers for the Lord. So you're going to show your kids what this looks like by jabbing a skewer through the balloon. This will help your kids appreciate the difference between being translated and being transfigured, which is just that temporary change. So a translated being has a knot tied here, and then you're going to take your skewer. For us, we just used a little bit of dish soap to smooth the skewer out. If you feel the skewer and it feels rough at all, you're going to want to get a different one, or put some lotion or some dish soap on it to give it a smoother surface. And then you're going to search for the thickest part of the balloon. So search for a part like right by the neck or at the other, on the opposite end where there's a thick part of the balloon, and you're going to push the skewer in. It takes a little bit of force to get it to go through, but if your skewer is nice and sharp, it should go in. And then you want to go out the exact opposite side. So again, through a thicker, darker part of the balloon. And what's amazing about this is the balloon stays intact. Those molecules change, and all of a sudden you've got a nice tight grip on that skewer and the air stays in it. This gives you a nice chance to talk about what it means to be a translated being. Somebody who is impervious to pain, somebody who can't die until the coming of the Son of God and until the resurrection happens. They can't change. It's not a permanent change. Just like if I pulled out the skewer slowly, my balloon might stay intact for a little while, but over the course of time, it's going to change. The difference between that and what we find in resurrection is a permanent change. That's when you see the body and the spirit united, never to be separated again. So So that's not what John is yet. There are resurrected beings that you hear about in the Doctrine and Covenants, but John is a translated being. That means he doesn't feel pain, he will not die, and he'll be serving the Lord until the Lord comes again, until the day of his resurrection when he'll change again.